Thanks for having me out, man. Well, or welcome to my area, I should say, right?
Right here in your guys' land right here. Talk a little bit about where did you grow up? Where did you start?
So I actually grew up a couple hours south of here. You can see the mountains behind us. You go about 2 hours south, just straight down the mountain range. Yosemite, a lot of people are familiar with Yosemite. My hometown is 25 miles straight across the mountain east. So the Eastern Sierra is a Mammoth June Lake. So grew up a California kid, but not what most California people consider California when you're at the top of the mountains.
Now, how many people did you grow up with, like in the high school?
So my high school was actually 75 kids, but that was 7th grade through 12th grade. So my senior class was 9. So when we do reunions, it's usually from like 1968 to present. Well, you have enough people show up.
Yeah.
Make a difference.
Heard you're an all-star in a lot of the...
Oh yeah, I was like top 10. Off every sport. Because there just wasn't enough kids. So basically, we like prod each other to do well in school because you couldn't afford to fail a class or something because then we might be down a guy for like we played 8-man football. All right, we had skiing, baseball, basketball, football, no soccer, no wrestling, anything like that because it's just so small.
Did you play any sports or did you?
I played all of them.
Played all of them.
I could say that I lettered in every sport we had.
You were busy then.
We
man.
played a lot of sports, but that's because there was not a whole lot else to do out here. So you grow up all, working all summer so you can buy your ski equipment, and then when you're in school, you play the sports. But a pretty interesting way to grow up because you damn near had that one-on-one attention as opposed to some of the bigger schools that people grow up in. If you got a question, it was easy to stop with 8, 10 kids in class instead of 30 or 40. I wasn't in the short bus classes or anything. I tried.
Well, it's a small town, so when your time out there, were you always into guns or what was it?
Ironically, yes. And I say ironically because growing up in that town, that small mountain town, it was like a split between like your hunter type people and then you had like, for lack of a better term, your tree huggers, right? That like, the hippies and everything. So my dad grew up a hippie, building houses and everything, long hair, ponytails, big beard. And my stepmom was a wildlife biologist. So me in the gun side really didn't play into theirs. But I started wanting to be into guns at an early age and then would sneak out and, do my thing with them. And so it was totally
that was your crowd.
Against like what they did. So I didn't have a lot of guns. I had 22 growing up. And when I knew that I was like 12, 13, I was going to go straight to the military.
Was there someone that influenced you that got you into the military or?
There was a couple, one individual, and forgive me, I don't remember his name. He was a Vietnam Ranger and he was telling me stories, but I'd started like reading the Carlos Hathcock books, right? The Marine sniper stuff. And that fascinated me. So I wanted to get into that kind of stuff and dominate the battlefield, like 1 or 2 people, right? And that was just really intrigued me. I actually, a little known story is I actually was going to join the Marine Corps to try to become a sniper, right? I want to be a sniper since I was like 14 years old. So I was like Marine sniper, Carlos Hathcock, and the recruiter stood me up. I'm like, well, they're already screwing me. What happens if I join, right? So like 2 weeks later, I meet this Vietnam Ranger guy and he starts telling me some stories. I told him I'd want to join the military and he started telling me stories about Vietnam and the small unit tactics and things like that. I'm like, well, could you be a sniper in that? He's like, absolutely. So I set my path right there, and so it was time to join.
So you joined, got shipped to the regular Army, and then how was the process to becoming a Ranger?
So I didn't go regular Army. I went basic training, and then what they call AIT, like your advanced individual training. So I went in as an unassigned Ranger, meaning I went through the infantry basic, infantry advanced individual training, and then airborne school, and then had to try out for the Rangers. So there's a selection process, and if you don't make the selection process, it was 3 weeks back then, it's now like 2 months, then you got sent to basically needs of the Army. All right, so I made it. I got sent to 2nd Ranger Battalion up at Fort Lewis, and then after a year being in the battalion and doing the job, learning how to be a Ranger, I went to Ranger School. So 2 different things. There's a Great Cab, which is a school, and then the Ranger Scroll is what we call the way of life, right? That's what you do for a job. It's not just a leadership school. It's what you do day in and day out. So set my path, and then as soon as I got back from Ranger School, I was straight into the snipers, basically lived there.
How long were you doing the sniper stuff until you started getting into the Delta Force? Or how did that time frame from being a Ranger getting into the Delta Force?
To be in Delta, you had to have already done 4 years, be on your second enlistment, be an E5 or higher in rank. So there were some prerequisites to have some time in. So when I made it, I was actually like 5 years younger than the next guy on my team. So I got in pretty young, like 25. Got fortunate.
Yeah.
But the process there, I actually kind of stumbled upon it because I really dug being a Ranger. And I decided I wanted to go check out Alaska. So I went up to Alaska for like 2 years, ended up in the regular Army.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not quite my jam here. I was a sniper in a scout platoon, but it wasn't quite my jam. And the Delta recruiter came through and I'm like, yeah, right here, dude. Like, let's check this out, right? Ran my PT test at like 30 below zero outside with like little spikies on my shoe.
Checking it.
Yeah. Made selection and like I think it was like just under 100 people tried out. I was one of 5 guys to make it.
And like real quick, like the difference between the training for like the Rangers and the Delta Force. Now with the Rangers, you're training a lot with the group.
Yeah, that's brute force. Well, yeah, you have like platoon size elements, squad size elements, and think the Rangers is like the strong arm of special operations, right? So we would go in airfield seizures, ambushes, raids. It's still small unit tactics, but we had like battalions, say like 600 people. And we would go in and take over an airfield where Delta is the hostage rescue counterterrorism. So they would go in and like say they would go in surreptitiously, hit a prison or this or an embassy, get the guys out, and we'd have the airfields secure for them to come in on, right? And even then, so you're working in small unit teams there, but the job is different, right? We are securing the airfield and in the area around it. They go in and do the surgical stuff and then come out. And then when I saw that too, I was like, that's kind of, I want to try that out.
So how was the selection process for Delta Force? Was it a lot different than Ranger, the way they train and to get
the process in my day? Remember, it was 3 weeks long. Now it's like 2 months, and they do a Ranger assessment selection now, which is really neat to see. They're putting a lot more into it, teaching you how to shoot pistols, carbines, instead of, hey, we're just going to smoke your ass for 3 weeks and then see if you don't quit. And they teach you some Ranger history.
Yeah.
Now they're actually like putting some training and performance measures behind that too, to you come out, I think, a more solid individual or a warrior, right? And Delta selection, the first month, the selection process is really, they use land navigation as their base, right? Because you can be a Marine, Air Force, you can be any profession in the military and try out. So like the one I went through, they had a air traffic controller dude. Right?
Air Force?
No, it was an Army dude, air traffic control guy, and then I think there was an Air Force guy. So there was just a mix. So they use land navigation as that base unit of measure. And like, hey, can you land nav through these mountains, get to a checkpoint, and then your next one's over here, and then there's one over here. And then they tell you a little bit, but like as a whole, you never knew how far you were going on a given day.
They never gave you, okay, you had to be here at this time. It was
all in most of it, like a little generic to give you a short answer. Is most of that you don't know your time standards. You don't know how far you're going because they just want to see if you're going to do it. And the really cool thing is it's an individual effort. Like it's not on you and a team to get it done, right?
They're they're just training you.
They're not even training you. They're assessing.
They're assessing you.
Can you perform on your own with minimal guidance, supervision? Here's your task. Get it done. And I thrived at that. I really dug it. And that's, if you look back into my Ranger days, that's kind of what I did. It's like me and you, a sniper team, or maybe 4 guys, but we went out and did our small unit things. It was on us to make it happen. And there it was on me. Like, pass or fail, man. It's on you. I appreciated that because you can't point a finger at anybody but yourself.
How long did it take for you to become a Delta Force? Well, they say you're a Delta Force from when you started.
I would say it was close to a year.
A year
close
worth
to
of
a year
training.
before. They're like, yep, welcome into a squadron. And I would say from start to finish, about a year.
So you got that training done. Training's done. Now it's time for the big leagues. You know, that's time for like the action. Now, what did you guys, or how did you start? Like, well, I know that you can't talk too much about it, but very vaguely.
So it was basically like the assistant breacher on the team. I helped build all the charges for the assaults. So we always had some sort of breaching technology on us, in various types from mechanical to explosive. So I'd help with all that. So I was like the pack mule of the team. I had all the heavy shit, and like you come in, I'm dropping, breaching tools and this and that, and then just perform, man, like keep up, right? Because you move fast. And then as you progress, you can move up as different roles in the team. But mine was the assistant breacher, and I was an assaulter.
You traveled a lot. You've been to quite a bit of places.
Well, we traveled quite a bit, but most of that training was done home base because we had every asset there. But we would travel out to do other things, so we would have a variety. So we might go to Arizona or Florida or somewhere else to just broaden what the environment we were training in based on what it was we were doing.
What was some of the first memories you had of going into combat? Like,
so my first one, actually, it was in the 90s. So I actually went to Bosnia during the Balkan War in the late 90s, 97, and we did protection over there. So I was actually protecting a 4-star general along with my team. And so my exposure to the actual combat stuff was on a protection role for a general. I got out in 2000, December of 2000, right before 9/11.
Okay.
So I actually never went into combat as a military guy, unless you talk about Bosnia, right? So it's kind of interesting. Is I spent all this time training this, and I get out, and then the war kicks off. So I, within a month of getting out, got into the executive protection, high threat protection. So I spent years in combat zones doing protection work, so it never actually kicked a door open. It gets kind of overshadowed because of my background experience and the years I was doing it, and then 9/11 kicks off. Everybody just assumes you were doing combat stuff, but I'll never say I am a combat veteran per se, but I was in the Balkans, but I never got to kick doors and, do bad things to bad people. I got over there as a civilian contracting most of the time, and I don't consider the Balkan War was a tactical war. Yeah, it was still combat zone and shit was going on. However, I was doing protection work. I wasn't doing hostage rescue, counterterrorism, snatching up what we call PIFWICs, persons indicted for war crime type, the stuff. So
moving from the military, you said talking about protection, you went into a lot of protection work?
Yep, full time.
Any stories about some protection, who you protected?
So my first gig was, like I said, Bosnia. I was there for about 3 years protecting an ambassador to Bosnia, and it wasn't the ambassador. During that time, they had a couple organizations, Office of High Representatives, and then the other one was called OSCE, Office of Security and Cooperation Europe, right? And these were like overseeing governing bodies to get Bosnia back on track and set their own government. So the guy I was protecting was the deputy to the Office of High Representatives, who was a former American ambassador. Right?
Okay.
And so that was kind of fun. A gorgeous place. Got there about 3 years of that, worked my way from the bottom to the top, and decided I want to get in on the Iraq gig, and I want to get in hot shit, right? So
is that with private contracting?
Yeah, it was all private.
So you did some private contracting work?
Oh yeah, all through that stuff was basically from like 2001 through 2008, all high threat protection stuff, Iraq, Bosnia, Afghanistan, Israel. Came out of that, just got burned out after about 8 years, and then took a break, got into doing some training and selling, tactical gear, and did really well at it.
So that was a transition after when you were done with the military doing protection work. Mm-hmm. What got into your business now, the shooting performance?
So the shooting performance actually was birthed out of me coming home off of these protection gigs, and I'd go out and practice and train. And usually with a couple buddies, they're like, you're pretty good at this stuff. He's like, you should start teaching them. I'm like, nah, I wasn't that guy. I'm not the guys that taught me. And I'd put it off, and I'd still go out and teach a little bit. And so about 2014, I think, I'm like, I'll do it part-time. And then I've evolved it over time. 2017, I'm like, you know what? Let's make it a business. I'm actually pretty good at this, I guess.
Yeah.
So we made it a full-time business. But in the interim, I was still doing protection work. I just wasn't doing the high-threat stuff. So I was executive protection, high-value clients, some rock bands, some pop bands, stuff like that. So basically carrying a gun or teaching people how to shoot guns for the last 30 years.
So you were able to provide that service, but that's just what you knew. But to transition into like business, I'm sure that was a whole nother.
Oh, I'm still struggling
about business.
Yeah. Hey, what to charge? How to do it? Like, I want to give it away, but I guess I got to eat, right?
Because you got that product now. You got the background for it. You got everything. But now when you get into business, it's almost like a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother adventure.
But take me through those struggling pains. What did you notice when you first started that? Oh, this is different.
The big one for me is like management of the money. Like, I'm getting this money, but is it cash? Is it deposit? You're getting the full price. How do I take taxes out of that? These are things I had no idea on. How do we grow it modularly so that you don't overstep your grounds? I sought a lot of help from buddies of mine like Dave Adams, Greg McClellan, and a couple others that are more savvy on that side. And how do you purchase things to resell them or sell yourself, the marketing side?
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole other animal. Like, I can get in front of the camera, but like, okay, let's do some video.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I do with that video?
Yeah.
How do you edit this? And you can put music over this?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's this whole other piece to this to get yourself out there. And I think that's my biggest struggle is this year when we said, okay, full time, January on, this is what we're doing. sprinkle in a little security. We got a booth at one of the trade shows, and they're like, we didn't know you were here. I'm like, yeah, that's because I don't know how to market myself.
Yeah.
Let people know that we're here.
Yeah.
I was working for Staccato 2011 for the last 4 years too.
Yeah.
So that was my full-time job doing the training secondary. So we didn't put a lot of emphasis behind it, but I sought a lot of guidance, like I said, from close friends of mine that have done very well in business, and like, hey, this is how you do this and how you grow it. Like, scale, don't overreach. Like, do we need a gun shop? You really don't need a gun shop for what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Hey, do I need to go spend 50 grand on scopes? No, not yet.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you just don't need that yet.
Yeah,
right? The training does the training require me to have a storefront? I share a shop here that we get some of the classroom stuff out of. But does it require me to be in a building? I'm like, you know what? That's a good point. And one of the cool things I was said to me was like, what's the highest level job you think you can do at home? That's the question. What do you think?
The highest level to do at a job?
Yeah, the highest level job you can do at home.
Online for a job, like for reinsurance?
President of the United States.
Highest pay for protect
the White House.
The protection for
your as a job. Like
job
the President of the United States, the White House. He lives in that bitch. He works from an office in his house, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, good point, right? That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, but people put usually frown upon, hey, it's a home-based business or that. But it's like, no, it's not. This is modern business, and being able to do that straight from your home and provide a service that you go out to do it. Right. So you don't need a shop to spend money that you don't need to spend. And that's been the big learning curve for me, because I'm like, let's just throw money at it and get in front of people. Well, there's other ways to do that. Knowing the right people, learning how to spend that money wisely, because, it's not an endless pool, and it's very hit and miss. Like, you can have a great month or two and then it's dry for 2 or 3 months, and then you got to spread that out. So the learning curve for me is, putting myself around people that understand it. It's kind of like the Henry Ford of things. I don't know how to build a car, but I know I'm going to hire people who do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, or befriend people that understand that and help them in your circle, so that you don't waste time and money, man. And we do that with gun builds. Like, hey, man, you need a rifle. Like, let us help you do that, so you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and cash expense. And you're like, this is not what I wanted. Like, shit, I could have told you that.
Yeah.
For what you're looking to do, that wouldn't be a good product for it. We can go this route. Here's good, get better, best type, and help you save money there.
So what kind of service for people that are out there that you provide? I know you have a vast knowledge, a broad knowledge of protection. You could do pretty much anything when it comes to that. What are some of the services that you are providing this year? Yeah, I know you have the long range course, You do some handgun courses, but what are some of the big on the plan that you have for this year for the long range?
Our big focus is long range, as you can see out here. We can push a lot of distance here in Nevada. It is a massive, I would say, a mecca for hunting. You got bear, elk, mule deer, antelope, like 3 different types of rams, the bighorns, Nelson bighorn, California, Rocky Mountain. So there's a ton of hunting, and we can push some distance to do it.
What are some of the people learning when they come to your course for a long range course? Like, walk me through, what are they going to learn during that time? What does someone learn?
First thing we teach them is how to manage expectations of themselves and their equipment. If you bring an old 1940s rifle that, I've been killing stuff for, 20 years with this thing, and it's sub 200 yards and shoots a group this big, you cannot expect it to perform at those distances. How do you manage expectations of that? And we show them, like, hey, this is the best this gun's going to do. That's first and foremost. And then we get into range estimation, a little bit of the wind calling. That's an intro level. 30 years of doing it, you're still learning land. Standard deviations and bullets, ballistics, internal, external ballistics, our ballistics calculators, proofing out the guns. Hey, here's how we projected our data. Now we're going to go shoot it and show you how close it is or where it might deviate and how we can change that to make it correct. We touch on a lot of different little topics to get you to 1,000 yards.
So they're shooting 1,000 yards?
Yeah, you'll go from 100 to 1,000 yards on most of on our class. And some people are like, I can't do that with this rifle. I mean, we've had guys with AR 223s hitting at 1,000 yards. Now, the expectation is very low for a first round hit, right? Well, we can get you there. So caliber specific, and then we can push a mile. We have a mile mapped out that we shoot. The goal is to get you comfortable with your gun, understand how we achieve that data so that when you go out on a mountain or on a hunt, especially if it's one of those hunts that you might get one chance at it, like you get a bighorn tag. That's a once in a lifetime tag. You can't afford to miss, right? You need to know what you're capable of, what your equipment's capable of, and that's really where we set you up for success on that. So when you leave there, you have a better knowledge of that, and then we do what we'd call continued education on that. Positional shooting, we put on a hunter's challenge. We do pistol and carbine too. I do a lot of law enforcement courses. Next week we're in Portland, or not Portland, but Albany, Oregon.
Okay.
doing a 3-day pistol carbine course for their police department.
Now, with that course, when people are coming in, do they have to bring their own equipment? Do you guys provide equipment?
Oh, good question. So most of that is bring what you hunt with. We're going to show you how to use it, right? What its capabilities are. But we have had people come out and said, hey, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm going to build a rifle. Can you help me out on that? And we have several rifles that you can try, rent, shoot them, show you the capabilities of different calibers and brands and qualities of scopes and things like that, so that we can help you get that gun you're after or build it for you. So that's a very good question.
I was actually searching online, wanting to learn how to shoot, but I had no one to teach me. So I was going online and it's like, well, who do I want to teach me? I was like, people who have a background in it, special forces, anything like that. So it just so happened to be that while I was searching, I got an email from a company called The Range in Fresno. It was a range, and it was an email blast talking about there's a guy named Jim Erwin coming in.
That's right.
And that's how it got. So I
started with pistol.
We started with pistol, and I was like, who's this guy? I was like, oh, his background's there. I was like, good. I don't even have to drive to LA or go to San Diego or anything like that for these courses. Like, he was coming to the course. So I signed up, went to the course, learned a lot, exactly what I wanted. I didn't even know how to chamber a gun or anything like that, So he walked me through everything through this course that we went through. And from there, we just built a relationship, and that understanding what he also provided, which was a long range. And me, when I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a sniper as well. Jen Hancock was the same book that I've read, and I had the Marine Sniper, the list of how to become it, 20 pull-ups, all those basically growing up. So we started there, and then I came out to Minden, Nevada, and I didn't have a gun. So he actually had some guns for me to shoot, and from there they actually built guns for me. They built multiple guns for me. So I have 2 guns that was built for him. So if you don't have a gun or anything like that, and want to learn about custom guns, this is the guy for you as well. So right now you got the long range guns going, the handguns going. Is there anything else like this year that you have planned for the business?
We do. We want to be able to make it countrywide, right? So being able to provide those services to grow the business, but to provide it not just in Nevada, but say go out to like North Dakota, Texas, Alabama, Florida, pick a state where we can hunt more ethically, or increase their probability of first round hit, protect themselves better. We will add more, I would say, advanced long range courses as we come. We've been doing intro class, which is extremely in depth. It could be easily a 4-day class, but it's like, man, you got to know these pieces of the puzzle. At least know they exist. And this is how we create that first round hit, and then turn that into, like, say, a positional class or a ballistics class, movement. Ballistics meaning, hey, come on out. We're going to show you how to, work your kestrel, unknown distance, make these shots.
And with the handgun, a lot of people are just getting into the scene of gun handling. You have a course for that as well, right?
We do.
For the handguns.
We have a couple levels of handgun courses. We really pride ourselves on the ability to scale it. People want to be Ricky Bobby when it comes to pistol. They want to go fast, right? And then they get a little taste of it, and they start to do pretty decent, and they just immediately want to get into like dynamic stuff, right? And the reality is it's all based on fundamentals, but I call it mechanics, right?
Yeah.
How do I get the gun in the fight the same way each and every time, regardless of the situation I find myself in? I got to get the gun in the fight, pull the trigger while I'm freaking out, and not move the gun a lot. Everybody wants to put some sort of tactic or Gucci spin on that, when the reality is I just got to get the gun out, and it's got to be the same way each and every time so I can get my shot before they get a shot on me. If you equate that into like sport shooting and personal defense, sport shooting, we're looking for speed and accuracy. That directly translates to lethality and survivability when you get it into personal protection, meaning yourself and or your loved ones. But everybody wants to haul ass, and then I try to just taper them off and then scale it based on their skill set. And if you have a good skill set, I can ramp it up, but then the next guy might not have as much, and I can scale my training. And we pride ourselves on the ability to do that with that same class, make it work for everybody in the class. And we also try to keep those class sizes at a size that's manageable, and you maximize your shooters, your students' time, as opposed to just having them hang out a lot. And
so when someone goes to your handgun course, what are some like bullet points that you guys touch under, like some of the things that someone will learn?
So bullet points, I would say it's always fundamentals based. So we start with that stance, grip, sight picture, sight alignment, trigger manipulation, trigger control, breathing, follow through, and then I modify those fundamentals a little bit to make them a little more understandable, a little more easy to remember. So we go, stance, grip, sights, trigger, follow through, because in the personal side, you don't really think about breathing, right? Like, who invented the fundamentals of shooting? Well, I don't know who it was either, but I guarantee they weren't being shot at, right? So if you're getting shot at, you won't think about your breathing, right? But so we break it into what we call the mechanics of that. If I can repeat that on the ground, standing up, on the move, stance isn't, it doesn't have a time standard, right? You can catch stance for a fraction of a second to make that shot. So we do a lot of focus on that. And then we'll throw some techniques in there, proven techniques, not any sort of Instagram steer or BS. It is either proven in combat or competition in the last 20 years, techniques to get those mechanics, those fundamentals to become more efficient. And then you add a technique to a mag change, a technique on how we achieve a better grip and natural point of aim, those types of things, right?
Okay.
But the mechanics are always the same. And then you can add movement, fear, panic, stress, something else to create that. So we work mechanics, fundamentals, techniques, and then you can add tactics to that. But whatever tactic that might be, like building clearing or whatever it might be, that we're going to do vehicle dynamic types. You're still doing the mechanics, right? You're just in a different spot. Right? So you may have to modify your technique a little bit, but too many people want to get tactics driven when they don't have that base, like to really understand that. Like, I can't miss you. So
that's what I say. And someone's coming and watching out, like with me, I was always researching online, like what makes you different than the other people that are doing something similar. And for me, what stand out about you was your certifications and experience is kind of hard to match, I think one of the certifications you have was it was like an FBI certification.
That was a bone thrown to us when I was in the unit. We did some lateral training with the FBI in CQB, close quarters battle. Back then, the FBI does some of that from time to time, and their HRT does that. So we did some cross training, and as a thank you, hey, come on up and we'll do this advanced firearms instructor course. What I have found across the board so far is every instructor course I've taken, they don't teach you how to teach. You just got to shoot a standard, like 80% or 90% of this qual. You got to reach that. So I can just burn it down, but it doesn't make me a better instructor. Mm-hmm. That part has been a journey, and I've enjoyed it. And what I have found is each individual is different in how you approach teaching them. So whether it's a visual, tactile, verbal, mental pictures, things like that, to create something that that the light bulb moment for them, right? That makes sense. I could say it one way to you, another to another way to somebody else to get the same light bulb moment. And that has taken years to figure out. But first and foremost, curb ego, like as an instructor, have some humility, have some humor, make it fun for them. Like nobody wants to pay somebody to be a dick to them.
Yeah.
But some people like, I read a review the other day, actually it was today. As a military guy, I'm used to getting yelled at in training, like, suck less, right?
Yeah.
Be more macho, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have a female who wants to learn to protect themselves, and you're chewing their ass, and you'll never be as good as me, as an example, right? I pride myself on being able to scale that. Be humble, back it up with experience, currency, continue to train and teach, right? But I also take classes, so that I'm still relevant.
Continuing education.
Yeah, so I'm still relevant, meaning what is happening in the last 10 years, as an example, with the advent or the onset of red dots on pistols, as opposed to iron sights for decades, and the focal shift from target to front sight posts, and now with dots, it's all target focus type stuff. Dude, that if you're not current, you're missing the boat on that, right? And you try to do a focal shift to your dot, it messes you up. So that's an example. So I'm not the only instructor in town, but I stay current, I stay relevant. I have some humor, I have some humility to make it fun. You got to make the training fun, because then people want to do it. And they also start asking questions, and that's knowledge is everything. Like the rounds just validate what we're talking about, right? But if you leave my class and still have questions, I hope you do, but you didn't ask them because you were afraid you're going to have to run or do push-ups, and then I failed you as an instructor, right? That knowledge is everything, and we back it up with shots on target to proof out, is that work, yes or no?
Okay. So that's the client experience now. Now, if someone wanted to learn more about you, they like what they heard, and they want to be able to book something, where will they go? Do you have the website?
Yeah. So if you wanted to come out, do some training with us, whether it be pistol, carbine, or long range, we do put classes up on our website, shootingperformanceinstitute.com. There's a training tab on there. There's a place for reviews. We're starting to build a gallery with pictures and videos. We'll start doing more of that. We're putting up some spots too where you can buy products, swag, If you're looking for a scope or a rifle build, these are things that you can do there and or get the information to contact us. Our social media is Instagram is Jim the Kraken 1, Kraken, and the number 1, because I'm way too lazy to actually do a shooting performance one to start over.
Yeah.
So
that's good. So they're able to book a long range course, handgun course, private, and then you can build guns.
Absolutely.
And online, I noticed, actually, I purchased some knives as well, but you do have a connection with some
knives. So we do some custom knives. We do a lot of microtech.
I actually have one here. This is a microtech knife right here.
Got another version, the folder one.
Yeah, you got folder one.
There. Mm-hmm. Much slower. But
and he actually has his own knife from a friend of his.
Yeah, who is a former Delta Force guy. Rustic Knives, he did my Kraken blade. Another time, another place to tell you the story behind the nickname. But yeah, we can do a lot for you, from soup to nuts. We've made the mistakes. We've bought the wrong things. If you got questions, reach out, and we can absolutely help you out. We do, like I said, private instruction as well. Long range one-on-ones are up to 4 people. If you had like a group, like, hey, me and a couple of my buddies want to come out and do that. It's not always open enrollment. Private pistol courses, 2-hour lessons, and those aren't usually like on there as click, here's my time spot. It's get a hold of us. We'll figure out what best time works for you and us to make that happen for you. And you can get a lot out of that too.
That's great. Well, we're going to start now this is the fun part. You're going to be able to see what we're talking about with the long range. We're going to be shooting some guns, doing some handgun stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you to Jim Erwin giving us the time out of his day to come out here and shoot some guns and give you guys some information about what he does and what he does out here. So I'll say thank you, buddy.
Thanks for coming out, brother. I'm glad the weather held out for us.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect.
It's May here in the Sierra Nevadas, but it snowed this weekend.
That's great. We're ready to go have some fun right now, and then we'll be rocking and rolling.